I played FAE Farm, one of the most highly anticipated cozy games of the year. And in today's video, I'm not gonna just be reviewing the game, I'm going to be breaking the game down for you, category by category, telling you every single thing I liked and every single thing I disliked to help you decide if this one really lives up to the anticipation that it got, or if it's maybe worth a skip. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Payton. It is nice to meet you, it is nice to see you, and welcome to the corner. I have been playing FAE Farm for the past several weeks, and I have a lot of thoughts. I was very lucky to get a first look at FAE Farm a little bit early, so thank you so much to Phoenix Labs and Keymailer for providing me a key to check out the game, but just because I was provided the key doesn't mean that I automatically have to like the game. So in case you're new to my channel, at the end of every single month, I do review videos where I review every game that I played in the month prior. What I like to do in my review videos is give you the pros and to give you the cons of the game to help you decide if it's worth it for you. But in today's video, I'm taking it a step further and not just giving you my overall pros and my overall cons. I've broken the game into categories and I'm giving you pros and cons for every single category. And hopefully from there you can really get an idea of my overall thoughts of FAE Farm so far. But before we get into it, please be sure to click the lovely little like button, as well as subscribe for more cozy, chaotic content. And if you want to see me play cozy games live, including FAE Farm, of which I already have several live streams playing, be sure to check out my live streams that are right here on this YouTube channel, as I live stream several times a week and we'd love to see you to stream. Okay, I will shut up and let's review FAE Farm. Starting out with our very first category, I want to tell you about the story of FAE Farm. What's this all about? The story of FAE Farm centers around your character, who randomly finds a message in a bottle asking you to come save a faraway magical land, and after being swept away via intense whirlpool, you make it to a place called Azoria, a place full of cheerful locals, vibrant farm animals, and of course, a great deal of mystery. You take on the role of farmer in Azoria, and it's your job to make your farm thrive while discovering the magic and the secrets that lie beyond the surface of Azoria. And you'll do this by exploring mines, crafting potions, getting to know the locals, and of course, venturing into unknown areas. So let's start out with the pros for FAE Farm's story. My first pro is that I think the story is present enough. I think it's the right balance of giving me story, but also giving me the option to kind of ignore the story and do whatever I want. In my experience, farming sim games can either have a very heavy storyline that is clear and then it feels like you're going quest by quest by quest, or the story could be a total afterthought. And those kind of games are more about enjoying the farming sandbox for what it is. FAE Farm, I think, has a nice balance. You have tons of quests that you can get right to, or you can absolutely take things at your own pace, enjoy your farm, fish, make friends, and even engage in a pretty good number of side quests. Another pro I have for FAE Farm's story is so far it feels as though the story is going to be very drawn out. Or at least I hope it is, because I've played over 10 hours and I definitely haven't done a whole lot of things for the story yet. However, there are many hints that something is coming. There are tons of visible clues as to what dark magic is lurking around Azoria, and places that you can see, but can't quite get to right from the start. It does feel slow, but it's clear that there's more in it and there's more coming. And I personally think it does a really good job of keeping you intrigued and wanting to follow the story. You can definitely see this as a con, and we'll break that down in a second, but I like that the story is a little bit more drawn out. I think it makes it a lot less overwhelming, and you might enjoy this if you find that most farming sims are a little too much all at once for you. This one definitely has a more of a chill progression. Now that I've told you about the pros for the story, let's get into the cons. Going off of what I just said, I think the story is a little slow. I like that it doesn't feel super fast, and everything I just said about enjoying the hints at the story as we go, but I will say, the one thing that's bothered me is there has been a shocking lack of fairies in the fairy farming game. I know they're coming, and I think they're gonna be worth it, but I will just note, if you have the expectation like I did, that this game is full of fairies right off the start, that is not the case. Another con is that I wish we knew a little bit more about the character we are playing as. I'm sure we'll learn more as we go, of course, but I just want to know a little bit more about the stakes on why we care so much about finding out what's wrong with Azoria. We know that we found a message in a bottle asking us to come here, but why? We know nothing about our life from before, and right now, it kind of gives the feeling that we're just some random person who's not really doing anything that the locals themselves in Azoria couldn't do themselves. So, because of that, I'm really hoping that we'll get to discover more magic within ourselves, and not just the magic of Azoria. I want to know who we are and what makes us so special. Moving on to our next category, let's talk about the world of FAE Farm, the world of Azoria. Starting out with the pros, and this is one of my biggest pros for the entire game, but the navigation of the map is so seamless. And if you've seen this channel, you know this is something I struggle with in most of the games that I play. I feel like there's a constant struggle of wanting the map to be big enough in a game where it's exciting, but not so big that it totally overwhelms you, and you spend most of your playtime trying to figure out where you are and where the heck you're going. But FAE Farm, I think, has a decent sized map. It's not giant, it's definitely not an open world, but I think it's big enough. And I think it does a really great job of giving interest with the various darker spots, like the smoke-filled woods, the blizzard mountain, the intriguing lava door, as well as having cutesy areas like our farm, the beach, and the town square, to name a few. But mainly, I love the map navigation system so much. This is what we need, everyone. It makes it so easy to see where all of the NPCs are and to just place a pin where you want to go. And many games let you look at a map and place a pin on where you want to go, but this one I feel like is extra clear with the icon it gives you, literally having an arrow pointing to the direction you need to go in. I feel like they couldn't have made it more simple, and also it seems that there are unlockable fast travel options when you get a little bit further in the game as well, making the navigation even more seamless and even less of an issue. Other than the navigation itself, the obvious pro is the art style and the design of the world. It is very cutesy, very vibrant, magical, and absolutely lives up to the cozy vibes. Now that you've heard my pros for the world, let's get into my cons. As for my only con, I would really just love to see a little bit more character in the world, specifically when it comes to the decor. I personally felt like some of the buildings felt a little bit similar. I have to say I was also a little disappointed in the decoration when I got to one of the festivals, and I didn't see any really clear, distinguishable differences around town. I like the world for what it is, but I'm just, wishing there was even a little bit more. Moving on to our next category, let's talk about the characters in FAE Farm. Starting out with the pros, I really want to celebrate this game's character builder. This game absolutely comes with a lot of options to make your character feel like you, or not like you at all if that's what you prefer. Specifically, I really love when a game gives us a wide amount of colors for skin tone and hair color, instead of just giving you a few little options to click on. As well as this one, you get to select your body shape and your voice, which isn't something that I feel like we get to see so often. There are also tons of cute outfits and accessories in the game, and definitely satisfies the cozy aesthetic. But besides your character, I also like the NPCs and how they look. I think they definitely look very cutesy, and I really enjoy that there is a large amount of them and that they're very diverse. Notably, I love seeing the representation of Aspen, who is an NPC who utilizes a wheelchair. And also just seeing tons of different body shapes and skin tones, I think is wonderful to see in our cast of NPCs. Now that you've heard my pros, let's get into my cons for the characters. And this is actually the section where I have the most amount of cons for FAE Farm. So let me tell you why. Overall, I think the ideas for the characters are there, but the execution just leaves more to be desired. The characters definitely have their own unique quirks, like notably my favorite Alaric the Wizard, who's not so great at being a wizard, and Argyle, who's just obsessed with frogs. but the characters don't really go very deep. The dialogue is repetitive, and the interactions feel very surface level. I also don't really like that there's not a character portrait that comes up when you interact with the NPCs, or even like a zoom in on them, just because sometimes you don't get a very clear look at them depending on who you're talking to and where you're standing, and I just want to be able to see who I'm talking to clearer and enjoy their design. I also don't really like that you can't gift villagers whatever you want like you can in most farming sims. The villagers who can receive gifts, which are not that many of them, but we'll get into that in a second, they give you rotating options as to what you can gift them. I think that's great if you don't want to have to guess what the villager is like, but I think I enjoy that aspect of trying to figure out how to get to know them instead of just being told, this is what I want, this is all that you could give me. And it definitely makes it more difficult to level up your friendship with the characters. But my major issue with the characters in FAE Farm are the town square NPCs and the romance options. So let's get into that specifically. The town square NPCs, I think, are arguably some of the best ones. They all run different shops or provide services, and because you can shop from them at all hours of the day, they never leave their spot. Like, ever. They stand there kind of lifeless, which is upsetting because the designs of them are so good. And you can't romance them or even befriend them. Like, literally not even options to befriend at all, which I think is a major bummer and a missed opportunity. And then for the romance, which is one of my favorite parts of a farming sim game, right now, there's only 6 options. And I know with updates in the future, there will be more, but come on, why can't we romance Alaric? He's right there being a cute little wizard. Why can't I romance him? Not to hate on the options we do have, because I do think they are great characters. It just seems like such a strange and missed opportunity to include some of the other really interesting NPCs, and I feel like the choices that they did pick are a little random, and I just want to see more options. The next category is a very big one. We're going to talk about the farming in FAE Farm, so let's start out with the pros. The biggest pro for the farming in the game is that the game will automatically equip the tool that you need. In my opinion, this makes farming so much smoother and so much more relaxing. I also really like that you have to craft the plots for planting in this one. They do make you work a little bit for the resources, so it's not too easy, which I think adds a good balance to the game. And I also enjoy that they've included flower breeding in this game to add in another complexity that can make your farm look more unique and also give you some new and exciting materials. Another feature I enjoy is that you could fill up your watering can by diving in the water. It's a small detail, but one I really enjoy and have a lot of fun with, and it's a little bit more exciting to me than just going to the well at any time. I just really enjoy the diving. In addition to this, I really like the mechanic of having your storage be a shed and not having to craft tons and tons of shipping containers. I hate in most farming sims, my farm is just littered with tons of shipping containers. I love that it's a building in this one. It feels nice and easy to have it in a building instead, definitely a lot more seamless, and the farm animals are so much fun. I love all of the variations of them. They aren't super hard to take care of. I don't find it annoying. I feel like it's pretty easy, and they definitely provide a lot of joy to the farming experience. Now that you've heard the pros, let's get into my cons for the farming in the game. In my experience so far, there's not a very wide range of seeds that you could plant. Keep in mind, I'm still just starting, but so far there definitely aren't as many options compared to other farming sims, even when you start out. I do know that there are magic seeds that you acquired later on, but when you start, the farming options are quite simple. But I will say so far that's pretty much the only con I have for the farming. Now let's get into crafting and decorating. Starting with the pros, I love that you don't need a crafting bench in this game. This just makes crafting super simple, and you can pull up the menu when you're inside or you're outside your farm, depending on what you're making, and there you go. I also love that there are a wide amount of furniture items to utilize both inside and out, and you can customize the furniture using different dyes. But my favorite thing is the unique aspect of gaining extra skill points depending on how you decorate. You'll actually be able to increase things like your health, energy, and mana just by the decor that you utilize in your house, which makes, decorating your house have a purpose other than trying to make it look cute. It's also an asset to the game, which I think is really interesting. My only con for crafting and decorating so far is just that it feels like I never have discovered the right resources. Again, I'm still very early on, and I do think this could be a good thing because it means that there are a lot of things to discover in the world. But if you're a person that wants to decorate as soon as possible, just know your options will be limited until you discover more and more resources that you'll need for crafting. On to our next category, which is fishing and bug catching. I put them into one category. For the pros, I really love the fishing in this game. It's the right amount of difficulty, definitely not too easy, but definitely not too hard. Pretty much the fishing mechanic is just about spotting a fish, throwing in your line, and when the fish looks at your bobber, you just jiggle it. And then when you hook the fish, you hold until you reel the fish in while trying not to break the line. So far, the different fish in the game have been fun to discover. In particular, there are cute rainbow fish that I like, and I also enjoy that they provide an accessible option for gamers who might have trouble holding the button so long to catch a fish to make it a little bit easier on the hands. For bug catching, this is one of the only times I've genuinely enjoyed bug catching. It's usually an aspect I skip out in farming sim games, but in this one, it's actually nice. It's really simple, and I feel like they're pretty generous with the radius they give your net, except for the rarer creatures like the rainbow frogs that will need a little bit more finesse. And since your tools are automatic, the fishing rod, the bug catching net, and also a magical staff that you'll get are the only ones you really have to equip on your own, so it feels very seamless to just pick up your rod or pick up your bug catching net when you're ready to do it on the fly. As for cons, I don't really have any cons for this one. The only con I could say is that the fishing could have been explained better. I understood it once I got into it and I figured it out for myself. I just feel like the explanation the game gave you made it feel a lot more complicated than it needed to be, and they weren't really giving you all that you needed to know. But once you get it, I really enjoy it. Moving on to our next category, we're gonna talk about the mining in the game. Starting out with the pros, this is my favorite part of the game. I love this part of the game. And I'm gonna be honest, there are no cons for the mines. So far, in my opinion, just pros. I really like it. I love how the mines look. The monsters, perfect. They make so much sense, and they are adorable but still provide challenges. And every time you see a new one, it is a lot of fun. The combat itself isn't overly difficult, but it is fun and very oddly satisfying. And I enjoy that you get a lot of materials from the mines, and I do like the structure of the mine overall, where you need to craft different seals to keep the doors open, making it a bit more of a challenge than just unlocking the doors and then automatically waltzing in every time and having the doors be open. There's also potions you can utilize if combat isn't your thing. You can literally make yourself invisible and not have to deal with any of the monsters, just having to deal with hitting rocks. And I won't spoil it, but what you find at the end of the mine is pretty exciting too. Moving on to our next category, we're going to talk about some more overall gameplay mechanics. I definitely touched on a few that pertained to the different categories, but there are some more that I want to touch on as well. So let's start out with the pros. Recapping some of the game mechanics I've mentioned already, like the tools auto-equipping is great, the merchants always being available is great, the storage shed, the crafting menu, and the map navigation, ones I told you about, they're great. But other than those, another pro that I have is that there is no penalty for not going to bed on time. You will simply just be back to your house, in your bed, and start the next day. So if you're like me and you're spending a little bit too much time in the mines, you're not gonna be penalized for staying up a little bit too late. Another huge pro for gameplay mechanics is just the overall smoothness across the board. In jumping, rolling, swimming around, all of it, I think that this game feels so good to run through. I've been playing it on PC, but with controller, and it has felt absolutely seamless, and I'm a kind of person that gets very jumbled in my head with controls easy. This one I feel like is super easy to pick up, and it feels very satisfying the whole way. I also really enjoyed the energy bar isn't too bad at the start. A lot of farming sim games will give you the worst energy bar ever. This one definitely isn't infinite, but I think that this game does give you a lot of things to eat when you do run low on your energy, and they also will auto-suggest items from your inventory to eat when you're just at the end of your energy. Other than this, another gameplay mechanic I really enjoy is the almanac. In case you need more information about any of this stuff, just to see what you've collected, there is a helpful almanac that breaks down every category in the game and shows you what you found and what's still left. And the last pro will also lead us into our cons. Let's start out with the good part of this thing, and it's the way that you sell things in the game. I like the idea of it, we'll get into the cons in a second, but the way that you sell things in this farming sim is not via shipping container like you see in most farming sim games. In this one, there are these different tables in the town square that you can place things on. It kind of feels fun. It feels like you're a part of the town square shops, like you have your own shop and you can sell things. And then later on, they also give you an option to sell things right at your farm, which is great. But it does have some cons, so that'll lead us right into the cons for the gameplay mechanics. Table selling mechanic, I think, is great, but the problem is there are not that many spots, which would be fine if they let us stack the items. Since you're unable to stack the items you're selling, you do run through these spots rather quickly. I think if we get to the point where we can stack the items, the amount of slots themselves won't be so troubling, but it does make selling and making money a little bit more difficult. Other than that, I think the days in the game are way too quick. I really love when games give you the option to customize how long you want the day to be, because sometimes in farming sim games like this, you have some days where you are just grinding and you want to speed run through it, specifically like trying to get crops to grow. But then a lot of other times you might need some more time. Like if you're trying to do the whole mine in a day, it's pretty tough to do. This one, the days definitely go by quick. I think that they take around 20 minutes per day. I will say though, at least in my experience, the game never put any time limits on quests, so you do pretty much have enough time to take things at your own pace the way you want. I just don't like that the actual day itself is pretty short. And my last gameplay con is a question mark, because I feel like I didn't experience enough of it. I only experienced it once, but it's the festivals in the game. I only got to play one festival, which was the one in the spring, and from my experience, there was nothing there. Other than you could go see the mayor, and she has some fun items that she sells, but most of them are recipes, and you need all of the items to craft the stuff anyway, and I feel like early in the game, you probably won't have most of the stuff anyway. So it felt a little bit lackluster to me. Like I said before, I didn't notice any different decorations. I don't know if maybe I just missed something there on my playthrough, or if perhaps that will be updated and there'll be more in the future. But I really like festivals and farming sim games. I think they're a great way to introduce mini games, a great way to have some new dialogue with the NPCs, and I was sad to see that this one didn't have that much going on for it as far as that aspect. Now you've heard all of my pros and cons, so let's talk about my overall thoughts on the game so far. Overall, I really like FAE Farm. I feel like I have been critical for you, and I haven't just said this is the best game and there are no flaws. I definitely have cons, but I do think the pros outweigh the cons for me in this one so far. I've really enjoyed playing this one because I don't feel overwhelmed. Even though I play a lot of farming sim games, I do often feel a little bit like, oh my god, what do I do now? Kind of thing in most of them. This one definitely succeeds in being chill and being cozy, but also being complex enough where there is stuff to do. The NPCs are definitely the part that bother me the most so far, but I'm hoping maybe we'll see some updates to them, more romance options, maybe some more dialogue I think would be great. I will say the only aspect of the game that I really can't comment on is the multiplayer. I know that there is multiplayer in the game. I know you can play with up to 4 players, but I know you need to start like a new save file if you go to someone else's farm and, work on it with them. It'll be different from your own main save if you have it, but I haven't gotten to test that out for myself just yet, so I'll have to keep you updated on multiplayer once I try that out. And even though I have critiqued it, I do think FAE Farm lives up to the hype, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really interested to continue exploring to see what else there is. I think that the story has so many great opportunities to be really deep. I think that the customizations are really fun, and it does give you the nice aesthetic options that we like, and I'm definitely interested to see what the future updates are going to hold, because right now, I still will say that $60 feels like a steep price tag, but I'm hoping with the updates that we see, that will justify the price. For what the game is though, I definitely think it's worth checking out, especially if you like farming sim games, especially if you like magic farming sim games, and if you want something that has a cozy feeling, this one definitely does that. And there you guys have it. That was my review of FAE Farm from my first impressions of gameplay. I have talked for so long, so I want to know what you think down below. Have you played FAE Farm? Are you going to play FAE Farm? What are you interested about? What is selling it for you? What's not selling it for you? I want to know. Let me know. And if you're still on the fence with FAE Farm and you want to see some more dedicated gameplay, be sure to check out my past live streams. I've done so many FAE Farm streams already, and I feel like they're a great way to see what it's like to run and play and be inside the game and see it for what it is. So go check those out if you haven't already. Please consider clicking the lovely little like button as well as subscribing. Thank you again. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.